Good morning. My name is Jose Garza. I'm the Travis County District Attorney. Thank you for being here. For too long in Travis County, gun violence has threatened the lives and safety of our community. All across the country, gun violence has accelerated. Access to firearm can lead to serious injury or death, especially for someone facing criminal charges who is experiencing a high amount of stress. People charged with family violence, for example, are particularly at risk. In 2019, 185 Texans were killed by their intimate partner. Of those deaths, 63% of men and 53% of women used a firearm to commit a homicide. And it's not just intimate partner violence that we have to be concerned about. According to the Crime Intelligence Unit of the Austin Police Department, guns played an increasingly serious role in violent crimes, including family and non-family aggravated assault between 2014 and 2018. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the power to get more guns off the street. From day one, our office has been clear that we take crimes of violence incredibly seriously. Since the start of this year, our office has secured over 350 indictments for crimes of violence, including murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, aggravated assault, and violent crimes against children. In addition, last month we announced the creation of a homicide and major crimes unit that will be staffed by experienced prosecutors who are experts in the law, well-versed in forensics, have previously handled complicated cases, and who have the time to be in regular contact with homicide and major crimes detectives. Now, we are carrying that commitment forward through our office's first firearm surrender protocol. This protocol will ensure that people released on bond who are at high risk of reoffending don't have access to a firearm while their case is pending or while they are on community supervision. Starting today, our prosecutors will be asking judges to require that people at high risk of reoffending release and surrender their firearms as a condition of bond. And starting today, we have protocols in place to ensure that that surrender happens and to ensure that those firearms are safely stored and that a person accused doesn't have access to them. I'm grateful to Constable Lopez, whose team here at Precinct 5 is making our effort possible. I know this is an issue he cares deeply about, and we couldn't make this work without him. I'm also grateful to our community partners, Moms Demand Action, Texas Gun Sense, and so many others, whose tireless advocacy ensures that we as officials, as elected officials, are doing all we can to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. This is a common sense policy. We know that reducing access to guns is one of the most effective ways to reduce gun violence. Now I'm pleased to introduce the County Attorney, Delia Garza, to tell you about her efforts to keep guns out of the hands of people who may pose a threat to our community.
Good afternoon. I'm Delia Garza, Travis County Attorney. One of the top priorities of my administration is violence prevention and protecting survivors of domestic violence. Early in March, the Travis County Attorney's Office implemented a new weapon forfeiture policy to remove firearms from violent offenders. Our policy is a proactive approach requiring our assistant county attorneys to request weapon forfeiture within 48 hours as a condition of bond in cases that involve family violence, pose a public safety concern, or a safety concern for a victim of a crime. This includes cases that involve the use of a firearm, the presence of a firearm, threats of violence, and threats of suicide. We will also request the suspension of any license to carry permits for individuals that fall within our policy. Additionally, when an individual is convicted of a misdemeanor assault family violence, that individual is permanently ineligible to possess firearms. We will work with our judicial leaders and law enforcement to ensure that all individuals convicted of assault, family violence surrender their weapons within 48 hours of an order. I would also like to thank Constable Lopez and our Sheriff Sally Hernandez for their assistance in helping us keep guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. To ensure that we are quickly identifying cases that pose a public safety concern, all of our criminal prosecutors have been trained on a new policy and lethality assessment. Timely relinquishment of weapons is an essential dynamic in violence prevention. We must work together to ensure that individuals subject to a weapon forfeiture order surrender their firearms immediately. Unrestricted firearm access helps fuel domestic violence and public safety concerns. We know that an abuser's access to a firearm poses a serious threat to victims and to the general public, making it 5 times more likely for a murder to occur. We must continue to enforce weapon forfeiture and enact policies that prevent abusers and violent offenders from accessing firearms. You know, most of the time, cases come to us when something bad has already happened, and implementing these kinds of proactive approaches allow us the opportunity to make sure that nothing bad continues to happen. And so I'm grateful to work with our new DA, Jose Garza, and our law enforcement who I know are out there on the front lines. And they're really the ones that bring us this information. We see that information in the work that they do, and then also in talking to victims. So now I'll hand it over to Constable Carlos Lopez.
Good morning, everyone. Carlos Lopez, Travis County Constable, Precinct 5. First, I'd like to commend the Travis County Attorney Delia Garza and our Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza in committing to continue the firearm surrender program that my office participated and has participated since 2017 with their predecessors. I would like to go over the process that we have in place. But before that, I would also like to thank Sheriff Sally Hernandez, who is also part of the gun surrender on the domestic violence part of this. So once a defendant is directed to surrender the firearm to my office, the court will provide the respondent specific written instructions for surrender of the firearm. The respondent will notify this office of their intent to surrender the firearm within the time period that was designated by the court. Our office will schedule a specific appointment for them to come to our office. Upon arrival, the respondent will park their vehicle and wait for one of our officers to come out and retrieve the firearm. We do not want the weapons being brought in to our lobby and in our office. The Precinct 5 deputy will then accept the firearm and issue a receipt for the surrendered firearm. A signed copy of the receipt will be provided to the respondent, which in turn will be used as confirmation to the court or the prosecuting offices of the surrender. Our office will properly store all firearms surrendered as required by law until further orders of the court. One of 2 things is going to happen to this firearm. First, they will be returned to the respondent as ordered by the court, or they will be destroyed as ordered by the court. If we do receive an order to return the firearm to the respondent, our office will verify the order with the prosecuting attorney and confirm that there are no new or additional offenses or protective orders that would prohibit the defendant from owning or possessing firearms. The respondent will schedule an appointment with our office, and the officer will pull the case inventory for verification. The officer and person receiving will acknowledge by signature on the receipt. I want to emphasize that this will be a joint effort at every point. Thank you all so much for being here today, and I would like to introduce to you Melanie Green with Moms Demand Action.
Thank you so much. My name is Melanie Green, and I'm the lead volunteer for the Austin group of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Thank you to the Travis County District Attorney's Office for inviting us here today. On average, nearly 3,500 Texans die every year from gun violence, with thousands more injured. Each of those 3,500 Texans has a name. Amanda Broderick, Alyssa Marie Broderick, and Willie Simmons III were killed by a domestic abuser with easy access to a firearm here in Austin a little over 3 weeks ago. This shooting and the daily gun violence in our city, our state, and our nation is another painful reminder of how urgent our nation's gun violence crisis is. To save lives and to end these senseless killings, we need more than thoughts and prayers. We need action on gun safety, and we need it now. In more than half of mass shootings over the past decade, the perpetrator shot a current or former intimate partner or family member as part of the rampage. And in Texas, 63% of female intimate partner homicide victims are killed with a gun. Access to a gun makes it 5 times more likely that the abusive partner will kill his female victim. It is illegal for a domestic abuser to possess a firearm. However, unlike many states, Texas law does not lay out a process to ensure that abusers who become prohibited from having firearms turn in the guns they already have. So they can't buy a weapon, but they might still already have guns, and there's no process statewide for them to turn them in. So in this environment, local governments have to do everything they can to keep guns out of the hands of people who should not have them. This is especially important since our Texas legislature seems intent on further dismantling our system of responsible gun ownership by passing permitless carry, which would allow anyone to carry a handgun in public with 0 training and 0 background check. We applaud and support District Attorney Garza for focusing his attention on the urgent need for a firearm surrender protocol in Travis County. And now I'd like to introduce Ed Scruggs from Texas Gun Sense.
Well, thank you, Melanie. Thank you to our district attorney and our county attorney and our constable here. This is a great day in Austin and Travis County, and we don't get to say that very often when it comes to the prevention of gun violence. Texas Gun Sense would like to thank the deep, heartfelt public efforts of our district attorney and our county attorney and their staffs for following through on a promise that they made early on to make prevention of gun violence a top priority from the very start of the judicial process. These are simple, basic steps that will offer greater protection to the community, and we can do this without passing one new law. While important to recognize the contributions of our elected officials and law enforcement, it's also noted that many family violence activists and gun violence prevention activists together worked for many years to get this moment to arise. It was a little frustrating. It took a while to get this kind of public acknowledgement, but our officials here today are doing that, and for that we are very grateful. Yet on this day, we must also remember those the system could not protect, as you heard earlier, the mothers, the girlfriends, the children, all the innocents taken too soon, including just a few weeks ago in Northwest Austin. Today, we begin a meaningful process that must go further, but by taking these steps, we acknowledge the loss, we honor the names of the victims. And now, back to our district attorney.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you again for coming. Again, I'm grateful to the county attorney, to Constable Lopez, for his partnership in carrying out this protocol, and to all of the Travis County city and community leaders here today. Grateful to SAFE, to Moms Demand Action, to Texas Gun Sense. This is just the start. We still have so much work ahead of us. In the coming weeks, we will all be working to ensure that there is a firearm surrender protocol in place between agencies across the county and the city so that we can get guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. We look forward to working with our colleagues at the city and the county and in community to get a common sense agreement done. We all have the same goal, to keep our community safe, and that work begins today. Thank you very much for coming. All of us will be available for pull-aside interviews. Just let us know if you'd like to chat. Thank you so much.